High school classmates now are rallying behind the woman accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault 3 decades ago, although none appear to have specific information of the alleged incident. The women are circulating a letter. Samantha Geary is a longtime friend of Christine Blasey Ford's and is one of them. She joins me now. Thanks very much for being with us. Tell me about the woman you know, her reputation for credibility, for seriousness of purpose, and how political she is or isn't.
Well, Christine is a very serious person in terms of her intellectual pursuits. She's proven that through her success as a professor and colleague. She is a biostatistician, someone who's devoted her entire career to accuracy and data and facts.
Do you know anything? Do you know Brett Kavanaugh? Did you know Mark Judge, the other boy allegedly in the room when this alleged assault took place?
Well, I don't know who the other person was in the room. I did know Brett Kavanaugh and his friends at Georgetown Prep. I was quite close to some of his classmates. I did not know him well. He was an acquaintance, not somebody who I've given a lot of thought to over the years. But our class at Holton was very close, and we went to school together for 6 years. Chrissy came in 7th grade, and we've known each other for 40 years. And every one of us who signed the letter have been have had nothing but positive experiences with Chrissy, and nothing but respect for her as a woman and as a professor and as a friend.
And take us back to those days when you were all in high school. These are elite schools, Holton Arms, Georgetown Prep. Judge Kavanaugh recently was speaking at, well, not 3 years ago, was speaking at a gathering and recalling a saying that was common among the boys of his era. Let's watch.
We had a good saying that we've held firm to this day, as the dean was reminding me before the talk, which is what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep. That's been a good thing for all of us, I think.
So was there a lot of partying among these elite schools, academically rigorous schools, but a lot of drinking, a lot of partying? What can you recall?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we were all rowdy teenagers just like everybody else. I think these schools are very intense, and people tend to work very hard and they play hard. And, you know, I don't think that's so out of the ordinary or necessarily so specific to private schools in this area. I think that's a fairly common teenage phenomena.
How difficult do you think it would have been for your friend, to be coming out publicly with this kind of charge? We know that she did not want to be public. Senator Feinstein says in response to the president today that the senator kept it secret because that was the confidentiality of that you would accord any alleged victim of a sexual, attack.
Right. Well, why would anyone want to come out and bring this public scrutiny onto themselves? You know, she has a life. She has other things to do, and to suddenly become a political football is just an excruciating experience for her and for her family. She has nothing to gain from this except for a clear conscience, which is why she came forward. She really felt it was her civic duty to ensure that Congress in its deliberations is really considering the some experiences that perhaps did not come forward as part of the background investigations.
Do you think that at this stage, when she was insisting on an FBI reopened investigation, the president is resisting that? The Senate today saying, the Senate Republican leaders saying that that's not going to happen. If that position holds, should she come forward in any case, even if there has not been an FBI investigation into these charges?
You know, Christina's story is inconvenient, and people hate that. There's going to be a lot of pushback to having to slow this process down and really take another look. And I understand why that is, but that doesn't make that the right decision. I think that she has to handle this in the way that she's most comfortable with. You know, we're not talking about even sexual harassment. We're talking about sexual assault. We're talking about a situation where she thought that she might die. This is deeply personal, and it should be treated that way with respect that it deserves.
Samantha Geary, thank you so much. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
forward.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.